Hello everyone, welcome to the Listenable podcast with Dylan Alcott and Angus O'Loughlin as we go for year 4.
We're back 2024, baby.
Yeah, a couple of episodes in and this one an absolute ripper. First of all, let's talk about the tech that needed to go into today, Dylan, because we both, for the first time, we usually use a program called Riverside.
Yeah, Riverside, mother.
Shout outs to our old school dance fans from the night or noughties.
Every time we log into Riverside, I think that.
Yeah,
I cannot not think that.
Me too. Riverside is a great program. Basically, it requires Google Chrome, but instead of like screen recording like Zoom normally does, it gets access to our guest's computer, and so it downloads to the cloud straight from the source, the best audio and video quality. It's a great program. However,
yeah, we found out today that for this next person's disability, we don't want to ruin who's coming up. It wasn't accessible. And you know what? We find this a lot. You know, my consulting firm, GSA, we work with a lot of people with different disabilities. And this was something that I learned, how many websites, programs, like I'm talking like internet banking, which is pretty important, and all aren't accessible. Like it was one of the biggest learnings and how much you use, you know, programs and technology, but if they're not built with the accessibility, then you can't actually access it. And we're not saying it's a bad program, it was just learning that we learned today. Yeah. And if you want to hit us up, make it accessible, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll shoot them off an email because of this, but let's let our next guest introduce themselves so we can find out a little bit about the tech that he's using on his side of the camera today.
So g'day, my name's Paul Harpur. I said associate professor, I've got a promotion. So I'm a professor at the University of Queensland. I'm a former Paralympian, guide dog user, and because I'm totally blind, I use a screen reader called JAWS, which means I don't see the screen, I listen to what's going on the screen.
Can you give us a little rundown on... Hello, mate, by the way.
Yeah, hello.
And Harpo, you spelled that with a U, just in case wants to stalk you, not with an E.
Yeah, that's because I've got dyslexic. Yeah, I've got dyslexic forebears, which, you know, if you see my typing, it comes right through.
I love that. So, mate, you mentioned a program called JAWS. I know a little bit about it because I work with people. I used to work with Naz Campanella, who used to use it, obviously, on Triple J. Can you explain what that program is that you're using and how it works, brother?
Yeah. So when I type around on the screen, I hit tab, I use, and a few other features. So instead of me using a mouse, it talks and it describes what's on the screen. So it gives me a constant audio feed. So I've got my headphones in all the time listening. And if mostly it used to be always you had to pay a lot of money for it. Now there's a lot more assistive tech, which is universally designed. So it's really cool on the iPhone. Every blind person in the world, I think, has one because voiceover on that is just so cool. And the AI describes photos. So now when I take a photo, it says, you know, it describes that you've got a small kid with a blonde hair, which is my son. You know, like it's really empowering.
So what does the screen say about? What does the screen reader say about us then? What are you looking at?
Oh mate, it doesn't. Oh, that one JAWS doesn't do that on the screen. But if I was taking a photo, it'd say 2 big heads.
I would think it's a hot guy in a wheelchair and his mate. That's what I was hoping for.
Come on.
That's what I was hoping for.
Actually, it might say sitting down. It could say sitting down because it has said someone sitting in a chair.
Oh, really? That's so sick, man.
Not necessarily a wheelchair, just sitting down.
Yeah.
If we want to get into this tech a little bit, I want to give people another reason, and businesses out there like mine, small businesses, large businesses, we're just kind of touching on it there with GSA, and the big banks might not be doing stuff, but there is such a useful tool for using accessibility options for your websites. So, you know, I started a podcast company. Listenable, of course, is our flagship. It's the reason we started it. It's called From Your Pocket. That's my full-time job. We create podcasts. I had to create my own website. And, of course, when I'm putting a photo up of something on our site, I put in a description. And the website, text. I use Squarespace. It uses alt text. But then what I didn't realize is I've had to get into this stuff that I wish I didn't have to know about, which is SEO, search engine optimization. And you can increase your power of your website by putting alt text onto your photos, because if somebody searches man in wheelchair with black beanie and black shirt, and I put something similar into the description of my website photos, I'm going to be raised in the Google searches.
That's cool.
And From Your Pocket is all of a sudden going to be jumping all of these people who aren't doing accessible options. So there's a little note to small businesses like mine out there. Use alt text. Look at all the accessibility options. The other one I've got is I've got a new website coming. For people who want to use the studio, we're going to start hiring it out this year. And we're going to have an accessibility page. So our website is going to mention all of the accessibility options for the venue, for the location that we're at today.
Oh, that's cool.
So we've got like a sensory room here. We've got breastfeeding room. We have all of these accessibility features. It's going to be a little tab down the bottom for our friends in the community.
Yeah, you can also add these really cool accessibility widgets, which make your site accessible, bigger, smaller text, different color, whatever it is. I was wondering why you kept chucking the word OnlyFans in as alt text.
Yeah, keep getting that traffic up.
So when people
it's gone through the roof.
It goes straight on there, yeah.
Back to you though, Dr. Paul. Thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for making this, accommodation of we've done our research on you.
We
and
don't
you're a
get
busy
many
man.
professors, mate.
No.
We don't get many very smart people, and we aren't smart. So thank you for bringing up the IQ on this chat.
Sorry about that, but yeah.
We'd like to go back to the start, Paul, for you, but it wasn't actually the start for you becoming blind. Can you take us back to 14-year-old Paul and the day that your life changed?
Yeah, well, when I was 14, I lived in Brisbane, and I was just taking a shortcut through the train tracks because that's what you do when you're 14. You're invincible. So I was running along the train tracks, and being inattentive, as only a 14-year-old boy could be. And next thing you know, I was hit by a train from behind me, woke up in hospital, and was totally blind.
So you went fast forward over that one.
No. See, later on, I became a fast sprinter. But if I'd done the training, I might be better. Right?
I was going to say, yeah, you would have outrun the train. Glad we can joke about it. Talk me through getting hit by a train. What do you remember? Do you remember running in front of it? How fast was it going? Had it just taken off?
Did you think you could beat it, or you didn't see it at all?
No, I didn't see it at all. So I was running, and it came up my arm, come up my ass, and so it knocked me, then flew me into a post. So I vaguely have this memory of some sort of the ground shaking me. Go, ooh, that ain't so good. But pretty much, I don't have any memory. The first real memory, I'm waking up in hospital, and doctors fill you full of every single. When you've had that sort of injury, you've got every sort of medication flowing through your body. So you're drugged to the hilt, and you come in and out of coma, you come in and out of a coma, and you're waking up with this like a hangover, which at the time I didn't have I never knew what one was like, but that's what it was like. And then they said, oh, you might lose your eyesight because, they didn't know because my head was swelled up like a basketball. And so I was pretty much, well, I'm alive. That's a plus because I live near the train track. So most people who encounter one of the trains don't really have a second go at things. So I was pretty down about it at first, but I think this is where I know you have a lot of Paralympians on your show, but for me, the sport really did turn things around because I got out of hospital. I'm going, yeah, I'm weird now. Like, young teenage boys don't want to stand out for the wrong reason. You got the nice shirt, you want to stand out. You got the best shot in the cricket, you want to stand out. But if you're for something which you're sort of embarrassed about, you don't want to stand out. But what happened was, because I was a sport, I really loved my sport when I had eyesight. When I joined the disability community, I was good at sport. And so I got to play pretty quickly in state representative sport. So Hippo trained in October 93, representing Queensland in September 94. And I could have gone in April, but I was like, it's a bit too early. But, so I suddenly and very quickly became different, but for the right reason, where without the sport, I was just different for all the wrong reasons. So it gave me this real purpose. And also it's come through, and there's other benefits with coaching when into your business, but just for my psychological recovery, I think it really gave me a purpose, a drive, and it's so much fun.
If I was to talk to someone who got hit by a train, losing the vision would probably be the last disability I'd expect out of that accident. Why was that a catalyst for you, losing your sight, and did you have any other injuries associated with it long term?
No. What happened was the whiplash, apparently, when I hit the front of the bumper, threw my head back, and that sort of snapped the optical nerves, and then I got thrown into a post, which did a bunch of crunch up, like sort of you throw a hard-boiled egg against a wall, it cracks everywhere. But that all patched up. But that was the whiplash, and it was kind of, if you get hit by a train, you expect to be cut in half or lose a limb. That's the obvious ones. But this one, lucky or unlucky, this is where I ended up. Although I did like basketball, so I think if I had to pick, I probably would have picked wheelchair, because then I could have been in the basketball team. But no offense to tennis players. Yeah, no offense to tennis players.
Yeah, I won a gold playing basketball in 2008. We would have been teammates if you had done that.
Exactly. See, I was like, Damn.
That bloody bumper.
Too late to go back now, though,
I was going to say
Gotta
we're both washed up equally right now, so that's fine, mate.
Oh, mate. I'm wearing a jacket to cover my big belly.
Paul, we're going back to 1993, so we're 30-year anniversary of the accident for you. Who found you? Did the train conductor, was he the person who noticed that you got hit by that train? And
Oh, yeah. Well, because I landed on the grass not far from the train. The train driver knew. He pulled up, called the ambulance, and I landed just behind one of my friends' houses. So their family came wandering out to check out what was going on. And my dad drove past not long after because he was coming home from work. And so he was early on the scene, like as I was patching, sticking him in ambulance. So he got to come to hospital. Probably was his worst drive home, to be honest, because, not the sort of outcome you want, but then turned out pretty good in the end. But yeah, so everyone found me. Hit by a train, you don't not get noticed normally.
I love talking to you. It's a great vibe. I just love your energy already, like around that, because even just the words like, obviously bad at the time and turned out well. You went from, hospital bed, blind. Are you 100% blind, by the way? 100%?
Yeah, 100% blind. So I used a guide dog, and that's how I get around. But for me, I mean, like it also gave me a really good purpose because I encountered the barriers, all of them, like that whack for the first time, and I'm just going, that's stupid. That's just dumb. And I just walked around and I go, that's stupid. So then I went, well, I want to fix it for me. But then I started trying to help out, fix it for everyone. And so then I started saying things like, you don't need sight to have vision. And so I created a vision to try and make a more inclusive world. So a world that doesn't think about them and us and just thinks about us and incorporates everyone.
We'll get to all the advocacy work you've done. Obviously, a lawyer, and there's Harvard, and there's plenty of
with politicians in Canberra.
He's killing it. I'm irrelevant these days. I love it. I'm redundant. Let's talk about the Paralympics first, though.
Yep.
You played a sport which I've tried before called Goalball. Can you educate the listeners around the sport that you did, and how you got involved, and I guess what the Paralympics meant for you? You went to Sydney 2000 as well, correct?
Yeah. Sydney
so obviously being able to play sport at home, something I never got to do.
Oh mate, it's the pinnacle, and I started out with the pinnacle. So although I did get the Commonwealth Games at the end in Melbourne with athletics, we'll get to that, which was my most enjoyable race. But the Sydney one, well, goalball's a ball. It's got a ball with bells in it, and you roll it underarm. Well, I say roll. You throw it underarm. Comes down to 80 k's an hour, 90 k's an hour, and you throw yourself out and you block it with your body. So it's like soccer goalkeepers at each end.
Hang on, your body, and your face, and your groin, and wherever the ball hits you.
Well, you do wear a box.
Okay, you do.
But you can always tell when you hit a box because no matter what the box, it helps. But that's like I say, it helps.
I watched Goalball at the Paralympics just gone. Probably one of the more fascinating sports that I've watched at Paralympics. Truly fascinating. But what I love is that everyone is required to wear goggles with that are blacked out. Is there in the history for a man who's known the goalball sports for over 24 years, and been a participant? Have you heard of somebody cheating the system? Was there back in 2000 some Scandinavian player who pretended to be blind and hence the goggles then had to be part of the sport? Were they always part of the sport?
Yeah, no. Well, there was someone. I mean, I don't. I was a bit young, so I don't know exactly the country and the situation, so I won't get myself sued. But there was a country where a couple of players said they were blind, and they were only partially blind, so they were cheating. Yeah, there was someone cheating. So we wear the goggles and then eye patches underneath those goggles because there's over the years. I mean, you're at the top. I mean, the same way you get occasionally a drug cheat, you get an ableist cheat.
I think it also means that people on different spectrums of blindness can play because it makes everyone 100% blind. So if someone is low vision, they can still compete on it.
Now, I look at the Paralympians and I just go, wow, it's like they are so professional. The competition is so tight. It's just so amazing how far we've come now. Paralympics is on TV. We've got it's a top sport. and now it's regarded as a top sport.
Yeah, the elite nature of it and the entertaining value is starting to get seen, which is awesome. 2032 is going to be sick too, obviously, in Brisbane. What that represents, not just for sport, but education, employment, socially, whatever it is. You said the highlight of your career was the Melbourne Com Games where you broke the Aussie record in the 100-metre. Why did that mean so much to you, and what time did you run?
Oh God, I can't remember the time now, but
just say 9.5 seconds. Just say it. Just say
yeah, I'll say 9.
Yeah, you say bold.
Well, I was but the biggest thing for me was about it would have been, I think it was 11.9, but that I'd have to check on that. But what made it more special was by that point, I'd been an elite athlete. I'd swapped over to athletics, and I'd been to a couple of Commonwealth Games and had been around the able-bodied athletes. Now, at first, they were like, don't know how to, cope, how do you manage it? But by that point, I'd been to Manchester Commonwealth Games, been with these guys for years. And so the athletic team was a tight unit. And I was part of that unit, not as not like just as an extra, but I was just there as an athlete. And it was just a few key moments in that. Like when I walked, on the track was amazing because we're running down the back straight, waving to the crowd in the MCG, and the MCG's roaring, laughing back at us because we're, running around having fun after the race, that sort of thing. And the race itself, everything went perfect for me. It was just like that perfect moment, that you train for years and years, and then you pull it off and you don't make a mistake. And after it, you're just gone, oh my God, I just did it. And then after it, we got back into the village. Our Paralympics, Commonwealth Games, we have villages where all the athletes live in a secure zone. And we walk back in, and they have a live feed to the competition. And as we walk in, everyone in the room stood up and started and clapped us in. I'm like, oh my God, that was just, a really special moment.
In regards to that as well, one of the great quotes that I love about that run for you, and I don't know if someone's used this as a book, but this screams, runner, athlete, book title. But you said the time of your life. Because it's obviously, for the experience of being at Melbourne, but also you're literally running to your best time. So that was your PB of all time. All the race conditions came together for that one day and that one moment.
Yeah, it would have been. It was the PB for a competition,
right?
Personal best for non-athletes.
Yeah,
yeah, probably. I mean, in training, I've done better, but that's the fish that got away.
Yeah, of course.
Probably have to just clear the copyright with Green Day as well. Time of your life. I think you might struggle, to be honest. So you wrapped up your career after that. Why? Talk us through what you decided to do vocationally. So were you always advocating while you're an athlete? Obviously, you're a smart man. You're a lawyer. We'll talk about some of the qualifications you've got, which are outrageous. You've been to Harvard Law School, doing a project on disability, an international distinguished fellow with the Burton Blatt Institute, University of Queensland law degree. Why did you want to go down this space where you wanted to create a more inclusive world for everyone? Obviously, your lived experience played a role, but when did you feel comfortable enough to put yourself out there to do it?
Yeah, well, during my law degree, I wanted to be a corporate director, and I didn't really. There was a period where I was like, I just want to be just a lawyer. I've done a lot of advocacy, but then as things went through, I kind of accidentally ended up in things. And a good example of that was ebooks. So I can't read print books because I'm totally blind, and getting access to books while I was doing my PhD was really hard, like really hard. So if I was an undergrad, they'll give you prescribed reading, but when you want research, it was really difficult. And I thought, well, look, my university is not doing a good job here, but is there a better way out there? So I got some funding from the Vice Chancellor, who is Peter Coldrake, who's now a TEXA regulator, and said, look, can I get some cash to go check out what every university in Australia is doing to see, is there best practice? How far are we from it? And he went, yeah, that's cool. And so he gave me some money, which, when the Vice Chancellor gives you resources, then everybody comes to play with you. And so I did a study across the country, and then we were doing pretty good, but the issue was copyright, which led me to write a book on that and advocate for law reforms there. So, but that sort of work, as I went out from my law degree, I realized I actually enjoyed that more than being a lawyer. So I went back to doing that and did my PhD. Done my PhD, did some research on that and kept publishing. And then one thing led to another, and ended up at a Fulbright, working in Harvard, working with the Minister for Education on the University's Accord reforms, and just having opportunities thrown at me, which is helping me help others, and having the time of my life at it. It's so much fun.
I don't want to take away anything from that as well, Paul. And you're an amazing advocate in this space, especially with that academic edge, to be able to have those high-level conversations with people in high chairs in our government. With someone like, working so close with the Minister of Education, does it still bother you on a personal level and a professional level that you give so much lived experience, you give so much of your education, your PhD, your learning, your expertise in the field of disability, and then to see something not go through for no obvious other reason? Because that must really suck to be in the chair to make change and it doesn't happen.
Oh God, yeah. My biggest fear is always that I'll go to all these functions, do all this work, wake up with a hangover after drinking nice champagne and see nothing come of it. That would it rips you apart. And the other thing I want to say, if you're asking people for disability, for their lived experience, for their expertise, it's expertise. You've got to
pay them.
I get so sick of people ringing up an academic who's disabled and saying, look, how do you manage there? And then the money doesn't go to the junior lawyer, just like the junior academic who has a disability, but to say an able-bodied professor or able-bodied researcher who gets the publication. And I was like, nah. So now when people want to research on disability, if it's not led by people with disability, I just go, no, thanks.
Yeah, same with our consulting firm. There's jobs around the country when some of the big firms get it to do disability inclusion consulting. I'm like, none of you are disabled because you read a paper. Yeah. It's like, no, thank you. If you want to speak about somebody at a table, you need a seat at that table. Going back on something you said before real quickly, what absolute piece of crap would sue you for copyright for making their book accessible? What is that? I know it doesn't happen anymore, but Jesus.
You technically could, but I mean, there's a lot of people put it out there and just went, bring it on, baby. Yeah. Because could you imagine?
Yeah, the backlash.
There were some exceptions, but it made it really hard. But basically, we pushed it pretty hard and tried to get someone to litigate against us because the PR side, public relations, would have just been all one-sided. Yeah. But didn't happen. But the Marrakesh Treaty has come along with the World Blind Union and has made some profound differences, particularly in poorer countries where we now can share our resources with places like Vanuatu and PNG and Indonesia, Sri Lanka. We don't have the depth of disability research and access that we do.
Yeah, that's cool. Mate, what work are you doing with government around education? Is it higher education, lower education? What do you see the dream is around disability?
Well, higher education, the big reform, once in a decade, it's the Universities Accord. So Minister Clare invited me to work with him on the Universities Accord Ministerial Reference Group. And so that's been really exciting. And so that includes disability, includes everything. But like the minister, his mum had a disability, the PM's mum had a disability. So they get disability. And one of the things is the big whole agenda is the primary area is opening the doors of opportunity wide. So really creating diversity, and disability has been included within that. So my real hope is that we will see some really tangible disability-led initiatives within this agenda, which can create governance structures which will lead to lasting change. Because we can get the best document in day one, this might lands on and everybody goes yay, but unless you've got a framework and resources to make it last forever, then all we'll have is a really cool document and a poster on our wall. But I don't want a poster on a wall. I want opportunities created for. We got 9% of our student population at university has a disability. That's 1.6 million students in Australia. That's 144,000 students with some form of disability now, which is bigger than like 3 or 4 big unis. So we've got huge numbers. So universal design is the only way, because that will make it cheaper and easier for everyone.
Mate, give us a call if I can help, because that's bloody awesome. I think one of the cool things, we've got a foundation with the really crap name, the Dylan Alcott Foundation. As of right now, we have 18 kids in every single state and territory going to uni. We're paying for it. And what we've found is some unis are very ready and some unis and TAFE aren't ready, right? And it's all about, you don't know what you don't know as well. And to get that guidance from government, from academics like yourself, just to make the process a lot easier and simplified and a bit more of a non-event, right? But also make it aspirational for people with disability to want to go there, because we often hear from our community, what's the point? Because the uni's going to treat you like crap or whatever, and you're not going to get a job out of it anyway. So it's like it's a full-on effect.
The stat is 50% of people with disability don't have work, apparently. Stats, and then they have this data from people who graduate with a disability from university. They're only 6% less likely. So
Gotcha.
I don't have the stats
than an able-bodied person. 6% less likely than an able-bodied person.
Yeah. And when you look at that, you got to remember though that out of the people with disabilities at university, there's a lot of people there who have less impactful disabilities. I don't know the correct public relation, the correct term, but so not everyone's like a tetraplegic in a wheelchair trying to get a job. A lot of people there might have a minor mental health disability, which they don't have to disclose to anyone. Of course. You can push through.
Well, 85, but I'm enjoying this academia disability chat because we don't do something. Of the 4.5 million people in this country with disability, 85% of them are invisible disabilities. Yeah. So most people think that or near 85%. Most people think of me, someone in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? So it's actually a small portion. Yeah.
Paul, for you then, so with that statistic, I think it allows people, well, it doesn't allow, that's a wrong word. I think it pushes or should be pushing people like our friend Natalie Wade, who's an equality lawyer in Adelaide. She's just incredible. I love following her on socials. And, it breeds entrepreneurship, because if nobody's going to open the door for you into their company, then you need to create the door to open it yourself and for others. And I think there is an opportunity that people should be, people with disability, especially young people coming through, that if there isn't an opportunity, you can create your own. And I that's personally, something I'd like to start seeing.
No, you totally can.
Yeah.
Oh, you totally can. Like I did at the unit where I'm at, University of Queensland, we had no disability group when I started in 2011. And you get knocked back. Like people go, oh, we don't know how this could happen, or this couldn't work. But you keep fighting until you find someone who says, no, I'll support that. And I did that. I was a pro vice chancellor. And then one thing led to another, and the group's still going. It's bigger. It's got, a huge number of members. But you got to keep pushing and finding the way forward, because there is a way forward. But also when you think of universities, I really think staff are critical, because when I get up in front of 150 corporate law students and go blah 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 blah, they're not down the track, when they're thinking of their work, they go, well, that guy Paul looks pretty smart, then. When they go to hire someone else, they've all been educated on disability just by virtue of the fact that they had a lawyer. They were taught by someone in a wheelchair, someone who's totally blind, or someone who's got autism.
Yeah, exactly right. I think also we're talking higher education here, but something that we love chatting with government about is I went to school for 13 years and I did 0 minutes of disability education
me too.
In school, and we still do. 0 minutes. So you're not only just educating the class about why I was different, but you're actually upskilling them so they are more inclusive people. So when they go to uni, they understand. When they get jobs, they understand. When they are the boss, they understand. And that flow-on effect is massive. And so it's a higher and early education piece that needs to get to. And you nailed it. Just by being in an inclusive environment, the people that you're not just teaching, but also that you studied with are now running companies. And if they've got a more inclusive mindset, well, then that flows down to a more inclusive society, but better business, better opportunities for everybody as well.
Paul, got a couple of fun questions for you.
You're having fun with the education stuff?
No. What's wrong with you? Lot of fun. I just got some more quick fire ones.
Jesus, I'm having fun.
Well, I wrote down some fun questions. I do love the academia, but you legends are the one with the stats. I'm just the guy who wrote down silly questions.
Okay, let's go.
Paul, you were the Blind Australian of the Year in 2022. You've also done TED Talks. They say that if you are, public speaking is apparently everybody's number one fear. They say that, that no one does this, but the old thing of, look at everybody and imagine them naked to help you feel more relaxed on stage.
Oh, we won't do that with me.
You're hot. You're hot, mate. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, as a person with no vision, does that help you with public speaking that you can't see anybody? You don't know. Do you ask to see how many people are going to be speaking in front of me? Or if it's 1,000 or 10, it doesn't bother you?
It's never really bothered me. I've been more worried with the fact that it's hard for me because I can't read Braille, because I was hit by a train when I was 14 and never really learned it. So I used to find it really hard to just get my notes. So I had to memorize things. But I find I still get nervous. But the thing is, I get nervous if I'm not prepared or I'm not comfortable. So if I'm going into a situation like an idiot, I'm nervous because I know I'm an idiot. It's kind of like with running or tennis. If you're going out there and you know that you haven't done the training, you're not going to feel your full self. But
Well
if you're
said.
prepared, you feel your full self.
Next stupid question. You've had 3 guide dogs over your 30 years of being blind. Weston, the Wonder Dog. Shout out to you, Weston. Your current guide dog is Sean. Bit of a boring name.
What a great name.
Poor Sean.
Sean. I love that.
Chester, your previous guide dog, gave you one of the greatest, gifts of your life. Can you tell us the gift that Chester gave you?
Yeah, so I was at a bar, which, as you do. And I used to put the dog on long lead so he could sort of walk around and say hello to people, and I'd come in. Well, I was standing there having a glass of Shiraz, and he sniffed this girl's leg and licked it. And she turned around to punch the guy or potentially girl. And then she saw the dog and started and said, "Oh," and patted him. And by the end of the night, she thought, "Oh, he's a bit arrogant, but the dog's really cute, so I'll go on a date with him." And that was my wife, and we've been together now from, I don't know, 2011 we met, 2012 we got married. We've got an 8-year-old kid.
What's her name?
Melissa.
Oh, that's beautiful, mate.
How good's that?
Chester, got to ask for consent next time, you creep. But shout out. I like that a lot, especially as a lawyer. Yeah.
And normally we would, of course, go into guide dogs, as it is a fascinating topic. But very recently to Rory Douglas, we did speak in depth about guide dogs. So we'll link that below if anyone does have some questions around some of the great accessibility that guide dogs do have.
Dogs are the best wingman/wingwomans ever.
100%.
Dogs, no matter, especially guide dogs. I'm telling you.
Yep.
And our ball of uncomfortable. So the ball of uncomfortable is a question that we get sent to by people who might know a disability that they're curious about coming up, or maybe specific to the guest. This one from me is just specific to somebody who is blind. We've had this in sort of a Word document for a while. So this isn't specifically to you, Matt, but I've put your name into it anyway. Sorry, not Paul. The person who sent this through is Matt. No, Matt from our DMs has said, if your partner lied to you about their appearance and you had fallen in love with them through their personality, would you forgive them because their appearance matters less to you? And then I'm going to add this on top. Or does it matter less to you what your partner looks like? I think that's quite presumptuous from Matt.
Well, I think they're physical. If you meet someone online, that would be a difference. Like, you met someone online, they said, I'm, 6 foot and athletic or something, and then you met them when they're not, because that's relevant to a blind person, what they feel like. But don't give a crap. Like, for me, they say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, even more true if you can't see the cover.
I've got one from Patrick on Facebook. Very silly. When do you know when to stop wiping your bum?
It's a good question.
Thank you, from Patrick.
Well, you just know. Don't really know.
Just 3
like,
wipes should get it,
It's funny when you get asked a question about your disability when you're like, I've never really thought about that. I've just done it,
No, but it's actually not a dumb question. Like, when you're blind, how do you shave? How do you,
How do you shave?
all these sort of things.
With a razor, obviously, but like...
Pretty well,
you've done a good job, yeah.
Do you do it yourself or do you get help?
Yeah, well, no, I do it myself. But, you just that's where occupational therapists come in. Although, I don't think any OT came and told me how to wipe my bum, but that's probably because they're all women. And as a 14-year-old boy, I can't think of anything worse than that. But yeah, no, you get an OT to help you out and learn those things. But I mean, a lot of those things you pick up all the tactics pretty quick. But this is, I got to say, the best thing is, like, the professional staff is okay, but having a network of mates with the same disability as you is gold. Because there are times it sucks. Like, I mean, I've done well, but there are things, it's barriers. It's like the bus didn't come this morning. Oh, it came, but I missed it because I was, I forgot to wave to it. Like things that I can't see. So things are always hard. Or you can't find a car park. Like Dill this morning.
So annoying.
Some dickhead's parked in it.
There was.
Some dickhead's parked in the car park.
There was a dickhead in a Jeep without a sticker. And I went, so annoying. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, stuff like that. And you're like, so there's always extra problems. And the people that get it are other people with usually the same or at least a disability. And then, so that network is really important for emotional support, for mental support, but also across the spectrum. Like, I've got mates now that, senior professors and judges and so not only are they able to emotionally support you and give you ideas and practical suggestions, but also give you opportunities. And that helps your career. And then by helping, they help me, then I help others. And by that way, we have this, gets more and more. He helped 1, I help 4, they help 5. And so we get this draw up of people with great abilities who will, help create a more inclusive society. And I say great abilities because I don't think most of the guys I know and work with are better than the people without a disability, because we have to work harder. So we're actually, I think, much better.
Do you hear that, Angus?
Mate, I hear it every day from you.
Yeah, exactly.
Angus, I'm an innate problem solver. I've been solving problems since I was in the gym. Blah, blah, blah. I get it, mate.
Innate problem solver.
Yeah, it's true. But
Paul, you're a ledge, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. And if I get in trouble with the law, I know who I'm calling.
Yeah, we just got ourselves our show lawyer.
Show lawyer. You're in, Dr. Paul.
Mm-hmm. If you want to know anything about Dr. Paul, all of the details are in the show notes. So you can connect with him, check out some of his work, and maybe, take this conversation in a place that we didn't, but you would have enjoyed too. So, Paul, thank you very much for your time. We do love digging deep into the academia, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys.